The MSC Seaside is one of the biggest cruise ships in the world. Built at a cost of over £1 billion and weighing in at 160,000 tonnes, it's home to more than 6,500 people. With 2,000 guest rooms and 800 staff cabins, it's a giant floating hotel.
We can go through 20,000 eggs per day.
A glamorous holiday destination.
Everything is so much fun, and everything is there for you.
This is the event you've all been waiting for.
And an astonishing feat of engineering.
This is one of the most huge generators on the world.
But how does this city at sea really work? With exclusive access to a luxury Caribbean voyage, we explore the ship's hidden secrets.
This is huge. Without the laundry, nothing can happen.
We're feeding the fish. It's recycling in a nice way, isn't it?
It's quite amazing how all these mechanisms have to work together.
And the hidden army of people that keep this extraordinary ship running.
Any cruise ship this size is the biggest food operation in the world.
This is the secret life of the cruise. It's 7 a.m. on Saturday, and the gigantic MSC Seaside has just docked in Port Miami, the biggest cruise ship terminal in the world. In just 12 hours' time, this floating city is heading off for a week-long cruise, traveling more than 2,000 miles across the Caribbean. But before then, it needs to be transformed. There are over 2,000 rooms to clean, 5,000 passengers to disembark, and 15,000 pieces of luggage to come off in just a few hours. Then the ship needs to be refueled, restocked, and refilled with passengers all over again. In the cruise business, it's known as turnaround day, and the clock is ticking.
Many people think that we're coming in the day before, we stay overnight, we take a rest, and then the next morning they come on and they see the ship. So many people ask me, when did you arrive? And we say, we arrived this morning.
But how can the crew do so much in so little time?
Of course, our turnaround day is very hectic, but this is a dance, because everything has its timing, and it's like a choreography.
The day is a complicated ballet, where every crew member needs to remember their moves. But this complex dance relies on something a bit more mundane. One very long corridor. Down on deck 4, a secret crew passage runs the entire length of the ship. It's known as the I-95. It's the only way to move people and cargo quickly around the ship, and it's crucial to the entire operation.
How many elevators we're using? Only one? Guys, hold on the elevator.
First thing in the morning, the I-95 is packed, as a hidden army of workers take 15,000 bags off the ship through just 2 doors in less than 2 hours.
Of course, you see that we have our pool attendants helping us with the luggage, because on turnaround days, all hands on deck, we need all the manpower available.
Please align all the people right now, please.
And it's just as busy port side, where a separate team of dock workers have to work in tandem with the ship's crew.
We normally have about 13 forklifts and 57 porters working on a given day. It's extremely hectic.
It isn't just luggage coming ashore. Over the last week, the ship has accumulated some unpleasant cargo. 50,000 gallons of human waste. Today, 5 tanker loads of poo will be removed for disposal. For the turnaround machine to work, the ship has to be loaded at the same time it's being emptied. This morning, it needs to be stocked with enough food and drink to last the entire week.
This is for those cones, you know? This is for decorations. Dove la cattiva? Dove la... Giuseppe, dove sono le aragoste qua?
Ben Mohammed is in charge of the operation.
L'altro muchacho, questo è il punto. Now this one is a lobster inside, you have to go on board. Every week, I'm talking, it's a chaos, but the chaos have a limit.
In 6 hours, Ben and his team will load 160 tons of food onto the ship, worth over $1 million. Throughout the morning, lorries arrive from a complex network of warehouses and suppliers that stretches across the world.
It's very complex. We used to be not more than 1,200 guests. The ships are bigger and bigger and bigger. Today is more sophisticated, and it's a lot of area to control too, you know. Of course, it can work like wild old machines, you know, like a Swiss wash machine, okay?
All of this food needs to be loaded onto the ship through a single door. To prevent a backlog, it's delivered immediately to one of 48 separate food stores. Everything has a place, and every crate has to be loaded at a specific time. One late delivery can threaten to disrupt the entire machine.
You are late again. Very bad. I don't like it.
This is catering on a massive scale. In 1 week, the ship's passengers will consume 70,000 eggs, 15 tons of meat, and 47 tons of fruit and veg. Every item must be checked rigorously before it goes on board.
Nothing can go back on board without the sticker of K9. If the Coast Guard comes and it goes on board without the K9, that's trouble.
As well as safety, Ben and his team have to check every item for quality.
This is halibut. That's come from Alaska. Salmon. For the sushi, look how beautiful. This is a ribeye steak, a 20 ounce. This is our biggest protein product. Blackberry. This is for pastries. Then the strawberry, we don't want them big, we don't want them small.
Every week, the checks throw up some surprises.
You see what's happened to the pineapple? This is a freezer bird. And what's happened is softness and ruin the product. Even if it's one case, we send the whole lot, you have to give me a new product. In the next 2 hours, you have to bring me pineapples. I will call the vendors now, and I will tell him that all the pineapple have to be returned.
Moving luggage and food is only half the battle. The most important job on turnaround day is to move people. All passengers have to be off the ship by 11:30 a.m. This moment is known as the zero count. If any guests are still on board, it means that none of the new passengers can get on.
What's the 10:30 count, if you have it for me, please?
On board 500, 500 on board at 10:30.
Thank you very much, Miss Ruby. Let's get them out quickly.
New passengers are already arriving at Terminal F, where the Seaside is docked. Built specifically to handle this ship, it's the biggest terminal at Miami Port. And it's already getting busy.
We're actually about 120 people left on board, and we already have about 200 people checked in. This is probably the most nerve-wracking point of the day, when you're right between getting people off and getting people on.
At this point, we start searching people, looking for them in the rooms, around the pool, the open bars, and just making sure we get down to 0 people as quickly as possible.
Portside Provisions Master Ben has had some good news. In less than 2 hours, his network of suppliers have come through.
As you can see, I showed you this morning the pineapple return. By 11 o'clock, the replacement was here. The vendors here, we have a good relation with them to supply us what we need. Giorgio, listen, and thank you very much. You just arrived now. I see the pineapple coming out. Thanks, Giorgio. Thanks. Have a good day.
The ship is also being stocked with everything else it needs for the following week, from 7,000 rolls of toilet paper to replacement engine parts.
The technical part, the medical part, just name it, you know.
For a 7-day trip, the ship also needs more than 1,000 tons of fuel. Back above deck, the last of the passengers are finally making their way out.
All crew, 0 count. You have 0 count. Start the embarkation, 0 count.
Brilliant!
With the holidaymakers gone, it's the only time in the entire week when there are no passengers on board. Cruise director Gene Young uses this time for a quick motivational speech.
Well, attention all crew, this is your cruise director, Gene Young speaking. Congratulations on finishing another incredible voyage. I put the challenge out to you, my friends, my family members. This cruise, let us say hello to each other. Let us be the best that we can be, because you are the best. You are wonderful, and our guests love you. Let us do it. Let us do it great, and let us do it again. Thank you.
The respite doesn't last for long. 5 minutes later, it's time for boarding.
So stand by for boarding.
And the week starts all over again.
By midday, the front desk is checking in up to 1,000 passengers an hour. The holidaymakers are already exploring the ship.
Oh, wow. Hello. Hey, how you doing? Such a first impression, eh?
Wow, just wow.
Wow, yeah. Shiny, bright. Can't wait to go have a look around.
So we're about to go into our room.
Oh, it's open. It's open.
I know. I thought you were hiding. Oh my gosh.
This is nice.
This is nice.
Oh, wow. What a massive mirror.
Downstairs on the I-95, another group of people are getting their first glimpse of the ship. And things look very different down here.
You're in China? Yeah? Where are you coming from? Honduras. Yeah. Philippines. How are you? Welcome on board. Yeah?
On every cruise, there are up to 200 new members of staff, as up to 1/10 of the crew leave for holiday or to work on other ships.
This room is that we receive our crew members. We're going to make all the paperwork for immigration. We're going to sign them on. They get their cabin assignment.
At the onboard uniform store, they have to keep uniforms for every job, in every size. Just one tiny part of a hidden world, but crucial for keeping this ship running. On turnaround day, everything has to be perfectly choreographed. But there's one factor that's out of anyone's control.
Scheiße. Ooh, that was not fun. There's a bad thunder coming.
At the cruise terminal, bad weather can have major consequences. The storm means planes aren't able to land at Miami Airport. And many of these planes are carrying passengers bound for the cruise.
Hey, that American Airlines flight that was scheduled for Boston was diverted to Fort Lauderdale, 39 passengers.
Hold on, come again. 39 passengers? Oh, Lord. All right, I'm coming up.
But how do you keep tabs on more than 5,000 passengers arriving from all over the globe? With the clock ticking, the terminal team are in constant contact with travel agents to check how many passengers are missing.
The British Air flight that's been delayed all day,
okay,
it's still in the air right now.
Oh gosh,
there's
okay.
8 on there. Right?
Okay.
And American Airlines 207, there's 4 guests. It should be that one. Is still circling.
Okay,
all
so
right?
51 people in total.
Correct.
So that means they won't be here before 7.
Well, yeah.
Right on 7.
Right
okay.
around 7.
The storm clouds don't last for long. It's time for the captain to make his final preparations for departure.
It's always exciting to be in command of such huge, modern and beautiful vessel.
But how do you even begin to move a vessel of this size?
Okay, after the session, advise when you are ready.
The key lies downstairs in the engine room. Before departure, the ship's engineers have to ready the ship's 4 giant engines.
So let's start the 3rd generator and let's go in maneuvering mode.
The engines stir into life, transferring 80,000 horsepower to the 6-meter-high propellers at the back of the ship. With the doors about to close, Patricia has some good news. Her passengers have arrived just in time.
They're made it. They're all here. They're checking in. Ah, how exciting.
We have the green light, we have all guests on board.
Good evening again, madam. We'll be ready in 15 minutes, 15 minutes.
With all passengers on board, the ship is ready for the final act of turnaround day.
even if you do exactly the same maneuvers, they are always different each other. Every single day is different. Okay, port side clear, very good.
Hidden beneath the waterline, the ship engages its thrusters. Smaller propellers built into the side of the ship.
All 7 thrusters are in operation. We can advise the bridge now.
Bridge from forward, door thrusters clear.
All thrusters clear.
Forward door thrusters clear.
The ship is equipped with 7 of these thrusters in total, allowing the 160,000-ton vessel to pull away from the dock with inch-perfect precision.
40 meters in the air.
40 on the air.
After 5 minutes, the ship is safely in the middle of the channel. The propellers engage, and the Seaside begins to make its way forward into open ocean. 14 hours after arriving in Miami, the MSC Seaside is on its way again. For most of the next week, the ship will be at sea, with 6,500 people on board. But what keeps this sea-bound city afloat 24/7?
This is one of the most huge generators on the world.
Hi everybody! Well, are you still dreaming of these places to visit? What do you like to do? What is your budget? Perhaps the Northern Lights, Antarctica, Vienna, Normandy, or bungee jumping in New Zealand? I'm Jackie Skelton with JR World Travel. I'm turning your dreams into a reality. Call me on 844-249-0190.
It's day 2 of the MSC Seaside's Caribbean cruise, and the ship is powering through the Atlantic Ocean. Over 300 meters long and weighing 160,000 tons, the vessel is part of a new generation of monster cruise ships. If it was on land, it would be one of the 50 biggest hotels in the world. There are over 6,500 people on board.
Ok, adesso Italia sì, eh? Adesso Italia sexy, sexy, sexy.
20 stories high, the ship has 9 restaurants, 11 bars, shopping plazas, a gym, a 1,000-seat theatre, a spa, a nightclub, a bowling alley, a full-size basketball court, and one of the biggest water parks at sea.
This ship is not like a ship, it's like a city, it's got everything. It's unbelievable.
But this floating city needs a vast amount of electricity to function. So how does the ship get all the power it needs? The secret lies here, buried in the depths of the ship, in the engine room. Noisy and boiling hot, it couldn't be more different to the glitz and glamour above deck. But the engine room is the Seaside's beating heart. Here, 4 massive engines work as supersized electric generators.
If you love engine generator, this is the best place. This is our big generator, no? That we call the Big Brother. We have 14 cylinders. This is one of the most huge generators on the world.
Combined, they produce 80,000 horsepower in total. This raw power is then converted to electricity.
The engine gives the mechanical power. All of the mechanical power is transformed in electrical energy by the alternator system. Just one generator right now, we are giving electricity to the whole ship.
The engines can produce enough electricity to power 50,000 homes. And they also drive this ship across the ocean. 2 giant propeller shafts run all the way through the engine room to the 26-ton propellers at the back of the ship.
It's something so special when you just thinking through this shaft, all the power of the ship are going, you know? And just on the other side you have the propeller.
The engine room is also the key to another vital commodity that the ship needs in bucket loads: water. On board, there are 30 swimming pools and jacuzzis, and more than 3,000 showers and taps. And every department on the ship, from the galleys to the engine, requires a constant supply of clean, fresh water. In total, the ship needs 250,000 gallons of it every day. So how does it quench this thirst?
This is one of the most huge and big system of freshwater generator production in the world. So what we do, we take the seawater here through this pipe, come 600 tons of water per hour.
Underwater, huge pumps are constantly sucking in water from the sea. Then, in 2 industrial desalination machines, waste steam and heat from the engines boil the seawater to remove the salt. Once treated, the distillated seawater is clean enough to drink. It's pumped throughout the ship.
This water comes out from our shower or from our hand wash. And for swimming, pool, jacuzzi, everywhere you see water, it comes from this system.
The system can produce 3,000 tons of fresh water a day, enough to fill 400 of these swimming pools. But this floating hotel doesn't just rely on secret systems. It also depends on a hidden army of people. Every day, 60 cleaners are constantly at work, cleaning the ship's 20 stories of staircases and 10 kilometers of corridors. Meanwhile, a team of 112 cabin stewards have to strip and make more than 2,000 beds. 1,000 of these linen bags are filled every day. But how does the ship deal with so much laundry? Hidden away on Deck 3, another department is absolutely crucial to the smooth running of the ship.
Oh, this is huge. Without the laundry, the ship is not operational. Everybody thinks the housekeeping and the dining room without the food cannot be operational. No, without the laundry, nothing can happen.
Almost everybody on board relies on regular deliveries of clean laundry. In one day, they have to process 14,000 pool towels, 10,000 sheets, and 60,000 napkins.
Everything comes down here. If you're looking at the hotel in Las Vegas, they have 2,000 rooms as well. The difference is, in the hotel, they have different laundry operations that they bring it to them every day, and they collect the dirty ones. In here, everything is in-house, and so everything needs to be connected within your operation. If one machine broke down, I'm already on a crunch time because the restaurant cannot operate without the tablecloth and the napkins.
To get through this never-ending deluge of linen, the laundry is staffed round the clock by a team of 28 people. Again, the ship's engines play a vital role in powering this department. They produce huge amounts of waste heat and steam, which is harvested before being piped here to the massive machines. This tunnel washer alone is capable of cleaning up to 1,000 sheets every hour. After the washing cycle, a robotic arm moves the material to one of 4 huge dryers.
This is the only thing that can accommodate the needs of the ship. Without this, we can never meet the expectation.
Once the laundry is washed and dried, another machine presses and folds it into perfect squares.
Make sure you get the end to end like this, then you have a quality linen coming out on the other side. See, well pressed. See that? Okay, continue what you're doing, and you need to be faster. The next person just have to collect the finished product and goes into the storage place. Very, very impressive how this machine is designed. It's very beautiful.
With a turnaround time of 1 hour, the newly cleaned, dried and pressed laundry is ready to go.
I'm very proud to manage this huge operation. I am just as proud as a cow. Like, what did I say that?
Upstairs, the ship's army of cleaners have another important role to play. Every day they need to dispose of all the rubbish.
With 6,500 passengers and crew living on board, you can imagine that how much garbage being generated on a daily basis.
So how does the seaside deal with this growing mountain of waste? Down in the ship's onboard garbage room, an army of sorters have to painstakingly separate it all, by hand.
When the crew member come on board, I take a class, each person being trained how we need to separate the waste on board, and it is their responsibility.
Only after it's been meticulously sorted can the waste be processed. Every day, this room receives 10 tons of garbage, including 2,000 cans and 3,000 glass bottles.
We do not want to pollute the sea. We don't want to discharge to the sea. This is one of the most eco-friendly ships in the world.
80% of the waste generated on the ship can be recycled. The rest is taken back to Miami. Just keeping this ship afloat takes an army of people. But perhaps the biggest task is keeping everyone on board fed.
You're dishing up too many at a time, okay?
And dealing with the consequences.
G'day, Jackie Skelton here. Remember, experience counts when you choose a travel consultant. Ross and I have travelled the world learning how to travel safely and securely, believe it or not, with over 100 years combined. Remember to call me, ask for Jackie Skelton, JR World Travel on 844-249-0190.
It's day 3 of the MSC Seaside's Caribbean cruise, and the ship is on course for Jamaica.
Over here on pool deck. It's gonna be an amazing party.
On board, 5,000 passengers have settled into cruise life, relaxing, drinking, and perhaps most importantly, eating.
Can you make sure that they don't put it on top of each other? They need to put it nicely like this, People always ask me, how many meals you serve a day? And I say, well, most passengers, they have only one meal. They start in the morning and they finish at night. They eat continuously. It's only one meal for them, right?
But how do you go about feeding the 5,000? The key is sheer manpower. 800 people work in the food and beverage team. That's more than half of the entire crew. Together they cook, plate and serve 15 tons of food a day.
Hola, buenas noches.
Every evening, passengers eat at 2 massive restaurants. Capable of serving 1,500 people at a time, they run 3 separate sittings a night. At 5 p.m, the team kicks into action. With 250 well-drilled crew members working in 2 huge galleys, Thomas has to make sure everyone is up to standard.
Don't cook too much fish in advance, okay? Pieces like that don't need to be on there, right? Don't serve that, okay? You make sure you're decorating the food with chopped parsley or something all the time. Any cruise ship this size is the biggest food operation in the world because it's not like a hotel. A hotel might also have 5,000 beds, but half of them don't eat in the hotel. Here, they have no choice. There's nowhere else they can go.
But the galleys are only one part of a vast catering operation. Behind the scenes, there is a hidden labyrinth of stores, fridges and freezers stretching over 15 floors. 24 hours a day, these supply lines have to constantly replenish the galleys above.
Nobody really understands the scope of what we do on board unless you've been part of this industry before. Imagine 6,500 persons, diverse, multinationalities, multilingual, and a wide array of exquisite taste. And we have to accommodate to each one of these tastes as much as possible.
Each one of the stores is specially dedicated to a certain product, so there's no cross-contamination.
This is just for ice cream. just for ice cream. And you also have a little weird flavor, guava hazelnut. I mean, who would have that? Have you ever had that? All right, so we're gonna go over to the cold room. I need a coat to go into this room. It's like being in Alaska. All right, we can go through 20,000 eggs per day. Easily, 20,000 eggs. So.
Every item in these freezers needs to be defrosted at the exact right time. Too early and the food will spoil in massive quantities. Too late and there won't be enough to serve. Although the cruise only lasts 7 days, the ship must keep enough for 2 weeks in case of emergencies.
We are sailing in North America and we encounter a lot of hurricanes, a lot of unfavorable weather conditions, and we may or may not miss a port. But if we do have enough stock on board to take us past for a couple days.
And guests don't just need to eat. With 11 bars on board, the alcohol stores are some of the best stocked on the ship.
One of the first priorities is ensuring that we have the nectar of life, the nectar of fun, which we all know to be alcohol. So we got the cordials, the liqueurs, the beers, the water. You need to rehydrate, and then you repeat.
In one cruise, thirsty passengers will go through 2,000 bottles of spirits, 8,000 bottles of wine, and 10,000 litres of beer.
We're not a party boat. It's a boat that caters for everyone's individual thirst.
Good food and lots of alcohol aren't the only ways to keep the ship's passengers happy. From dance groups, to shopping sales, to weddings.
Give you this ring as a symbol of my love.
The crew lay on hundreds of activities a day to entertain them. And there's one man in particular who's responsible.
Well, hi there, Jackie Skelton here. So you're stranded miles from home? You've opted for no travel insurance. Oh dear. The country you're in is going to require payment prior to being allowed to leave. I am Jackie Skelton with JR World Travel. Why do you need travel insurance? Call me, 844-249-0190.
For keeping the party going.
All right, stand by, tape rolling, segment 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your cruise director, Gene.
And I'm your cruise staff manager, Kevin.
And welcome back to the Morning Zoo. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you had a nice couple of days here on board MSC Seaside. We've had a wonderful time. So that we can introduce ourselves. But first, good evening.
Gene Young is the ship's cruise director. As the public face of the ship, he has to be happy at all times.
They're looking for a Disneyland experience. Everything is so much fun, and everything is there for you. This city of fun, this city of pleasure. I define the excitement, and I define it because it is there and it can be defined. Look how wonderful this is. Aren't you having such a neat time?
But what's the secret to keeping more than 5,000 passengers happy? The first rule is to be very nice to everyone.
I like your bikini, that's nice. I studied people, studied their emotions, how to drive their emotions. As a cruise director, I specifically tried to figure out what are people thinking? What brings them anxiety? What brings them joy? How old? It's got to be...
The second rule is to practice.
I hate to say it, but it is rehearsed spontaneity. I rehearse trying to make sure that they can relax so they can enjoy. And so it's something that I rehearse all the time.
The ship's huge restaurants are coming towards the end of their first sitting. And in the galleys, a dedicated team of workers are slicing and dicing a mountain of produce. They're helped by some industrial-sized equipment.
It's basically washing our fruit before we process them. A machine like that you probably would only find in a commercial plant where they make canned fruit and things like that. We've got one here, beautiful. It's just the right length for me to have my jacuzzi, no? We can actually have a spin dryer in there when you have different kind of fruit, almost like a close spin dryer. This is probably the cleanest pineapple on the ship right now that we have.
Together, these machines can power through 300 kilograms of fruit and veg every hour.
In all my time of working on cruise ship. This is the first time that I see this kind of technology on a ship. It's the state-of-the-art stuff.
The chefs also need some super-sized kitchenware.
Some of these boilers, they hold about 300, 250, 300 liters, some of them. And this is what we need here, you know. When we make tomato sauce, I make 300 liters every day. Just tomato sauce, every day. And it's gone at the end of the day.
Even the dishwashing is an industrial operation. After each sitting, every single plate needs to be washed.
This is the clean side of the operation. Comes out here, gets dried, piled up and pushed back into the operation. We actually need everything for the second sitting and the third sitting. The food has a rest after the first sitting. We replenish the line, but these guys, it's continuous.
As soon as all the crockery is washed, the galley has to gear up for the second and third sittings.
You're dishing up too many at the time, okay? Do half, and then take them off, put them into the cooler, and then do the next one.
As the restaurant gets busier, the team work like clockwork.
This is now very well organized. From now on forward until the end of the service, till everybody has their folds well organized. Very good team I have here. They never stop.
Over 4 hours, this galley will cook, plate up and serve 14,000 plates of food. But at the end of the last service, the work isn't over.
We have a night shift and a day shift, so it's a 24-hour operation. Almost half of them actually working overnight. So when the culinary team comes back in the morning, everything is nice and clean, floors, ceilings. We do a total washdown every night.
And cruise ship catering has one more secret. Every day, 1.5 tons of food is left over by passengers. That's enough to feed another 500 people. So what happens to all this waste? In each galley, giant grinders crush the leftovers before it drops 3 floors below, where it's stored in tanks. Then, when out at sea, the ship discharges this waste as fish food.
Sometimes on a day when we're allowed to discharge the food waste, you can spot some dolphins out here, and they're following us because of that, you know. So we're feeding the fish. It's recycling in a nice way, isn't it? In the middle of the night.
And all this eating has other consequences. With 6,500 passengers and crew downing at least 3 meals a day, the ship's sewage system works hard. But this city at sea can't have normal sewers. So how does it deal with all the poo? It all happens here, in the bowels of the ship.
All the human waste on the ship coming here in this room. This is advanced wastewater treatment.
Every day, this secret sewer has to treat 30 tons of human waste. On board, it's known as black water.
When I come first day, when I feel this smell, I didn't like, but day after day, this is normal. Nobody like the work here because you smell. Also, it's very hot, but what we can do? Somebody must keep this system in good condition.
The seaside has its own specially developed system for processing the waste. First, under huge pressure, the solid is separated from the liquid in a pressing machine.
The liquid coming here and going to stage 1. Solid coming here and going down in the slurry tank.
The solid waste is removed every week in Miami. The liquid needs further treatment.
This is stage 1. Inside is very dirty.
2,000 gallons a day filters down into these tanks.
So now I show you how is the water in the beginning. You can see the color. It's very, very, very dirty.
The black water is filtered until it's almost as clean as drinking water.
The water passes the filtration, separation, passes from this membrane,
and coming to here in this tank. You can see this is the final product. Can you drink? Yes, if you want.
This water doesn't get drunk. Some of it is siphoned off to cool the massive engines. The rest is safe enough to be discharged into the sea. The cruise is reaching its halfway point, and tomorrow the captain and his team face one of the biggest challenges of the entire trip.
You risk to create a serious damage to the ship. There are no margin of mistakes.
"7 a.m. on the bridge of the MSC Seaside. She's travelled almost 1,000 miles from Miami and in 1 hour is due to dock in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. But the port throws up some particularly difficult challenges for a ship of this size.
So this is the port. I mean, here is just a big coral reef that we enter from this direction. As you may see, a vessel is docked here, reefs are here. If you just delay a bit the moment that you start to change your route, you can easily hit something, or if you don't control well your speed, you can easily ground, which is even worse. See, the vessel at the end finish very close. There are no margin of mistakes.
So how do you navigate something this complex? While out at sea, the ship travels on autopilot. But as they approach land, the captain assumes full control.
Okay, we can keep proceeding with this course and speed, no problem.
Okay.
Now, if anyone on the bridge makes a navigational error, the ship's computer will not correct it. As the Seaside enters the narrow port, the key is to slow down as much as possible.
Midship the wheel. Yes, midship.
It approaches first at 3, then 2 knots. Any faster, and the 300-meter-long ship will be almost impossible to control.
Then thrust 30% to starboard.
By this point, the ship is less than 200 meters from another vessel and 150 meters away from surrounding reefs. It now needs to pivot 45 degrees towards the dock without any forward movement. The ship is so big that the team move to the bridge wing.
Okay, hand over the wheel, over the wheel. Take over the wheel on the starboard wing, and take over all the control.
Here they have a better view of the pier, while maintaining full control of the ship. Underwater, the ship's 7 thrusters kick into action, rotating the vessel towards the dock with inch-perfect precision.
And that's the most complicated moment, because the vessel weight is 160,000 tons. The water around is not really very much. There are a few meters water under the keel.
The ship is so close to the seabed that the thrusters force the silt to the surface. Any more speed and the ship could sink lower in the water and run aground.
This last part of the job is the most delicate of the entire job. Slowly, slowly, softly, softly. That's okay.
Yes, the bridge on forward division.
Stop us. Despite the fact that maybe you have a residual speed of 0. few knots, maybe 0.5, if you hit with that residual speed any concrete things, you risk to create a serious damage to the ship.
Meters away from the pier, all the thrusters stop turning, and inch by inch, the ship drifts into position.
You should really land softly with 0 residual speed. In practice, I used to say it's like kiss the pier.
405 clear. We are in position.
While most of the passengers are off the ship, the crew have a vital duty to perform. Every week, the ship's officers run a full emergency drill.
Check on aft part. During maneuvering, we hit the pier on the compartment approximately 4 and 5.
Today, the officers have come up with an emergency scenario to test all the crew.
Captain, we understand the compartment affected are 5 and 4.
Safety officer Marco is dispatched to assess the extent of the imaginary damage.
Bridge closing down on compartment number 4 by the vertical escape.
For speed, Marco uses the ship's vertical escape ladders.
Bridge front safety.
Hidden passageways running from deck 1 to 4.
Bridge on deck 1, compartment number 5. We have 2 meters of water on deck 1, compartment number 5.
Compartment number 5, we have 2 meters of water.
The ship is divided into 10 vertical zones. In an emergency, they're designed to be watertight, to contain any breach of the hull. For today's drill, 2 of these compartments are supposedly taking on water.
Charlie Alpha, Charlie Alpha.
As soon as the bridge sounds the crew alert, every member of staff has to drop what they're doing.
All the crew members on board, they have a second duties in case of emergencies. They can be people in charge of the evacuation, people in charge of medical team, people from fire team, lifeboat preparation. They have many different duties all around the ship.
The safety officers check that the crew are confident with their duties by pretending to be lost guests.
Can I stay here?
No.
Why? I want to just spoke with you. Few minutes.
Please carry on your way.
We try sometimes to scare them, to give them pressure in order to maybe feel what can happen in a really emergency. It's the only way.
What are you doing? You are waiting there?
Yeah, remaining calm.
Yeah, of course. When you can leave your position?
When it's over?
No?
Never.
No. A few of them were really under pressure during the test. We need to work in order to improve their performance, but it's okay.
The drill is over. The drill is complete.
This is a good day.
With the drill over, the crew can return to their normal jobs. But what's daily life like for the 1,500 crew members living on board? Hidden within the ship, there is a second city, one that passengers never get to see. Here, in a maze of corridors, there are 3 crew restaurants, 2 private crew bars,
Mi casa es su casa. Come in.
and 740 crew cabins.
So this is my cabin. I'm a senior officer, so it's a larger cabin and I don't have to share it, which is a big perk on ship life. But you can see, really, it's not the biggest space in the world either. But on a big ship, this is all that I get to call my own.
Early evening on the MSC Seaside. While the passengers enjoy the last of the sun, the ship's in-house theatre company are in the midst of rehearsals.
So let's check now the field position now.
Tonight is the premiere of a brand new show, and there's some last-minute work to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Timeless!
We are the dancers of MSC Seaside, and we're part of a cast of about 40.
We live more in the changing room than we do in our cabins.
Spend more time here than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like everything on this ship, the entertainment comes super-sized. Every single night, the company performs to up to 3,000 people across 3 shows. That's a bigger audience than in any theatre in London's West End. There's a full-scale lighting rig, a state-of-the-art sound system, and a dedicated backstage team. Even the props and costumes have been specially commissioned for the ship. With rehearsals over, the cast have just over half an hour to get ready for the premiere.
I get nervous, but I think I've always been at that, but always good to have a bit of nerves.
Still, every time before curtains open, I need a little week. Why am I so late?
I think we're excited.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Because we've worked for it, do you know what I mean? We've worked, so I feel like it's finally time to show an
to show
audience.
what
You
we've
feel
done.
the new one's going to be amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Timeless!
Once the show begins, the biggest challenge isn't the dancing. It's 4 costume changes in half an hour. After the show, the cast have no time to celebrate. There are 2 more shows tonight.
One down, 2 to go. Yeah. Once we finish doing our makeup, again, redoing our makeup, it's straight into show again.
15 minutes later, it's curtains up again. By 10 p.m., the last show is over. The cast have been on the go for 12 hours straight.
Now sleep. Yeah, no beer.
I'm having a drink.
No beer.
Eight stories above, on the bridge, the atmosphere is very different. The vessel is still motoring through the ocean at 22 knots, but the captain can't work 24 hours a day, so who's in charge? Throughout the night, 3-man teams work shifts on the bridge. Their job is known as the watch.
We are just outside the bridge. I'm first officer and I'm head of the watch.
The bridge must remain pitch black at all times throughout the night.
The first 5 minutes are not easy because it's all black, you cannot see nothing.
Each shift lasts just 4 hours. Any longer, and there's a risk that the watchers could lose their concentration.
Current is pushing.
Yeah.
Pushing to north.
Yeah, I take the charge at the going, okay.
The bridge is equipped with millions of dollars worth of modern equipment. But at night, the watch relies on some much simpler technology.
We are watching the other vessel moving. So with the binocular, we can see their light, especially with the small boat, a fishing boat, that many times are not plotted on the radar screen.
Looking after this billion-pound vessel is a huge responsibility.
We have 1,000 passengers and 1,000 crew members. So if we make any mistake on the bridge, there are many people here. And our job is to let them feel safe.
The bridge isn't the only place that has to operate throughout the night. Across the ship, a secret nighttime army is at work, making sure the seaside runs smoothly 24 hours a day. 4 floors of outside decking needs to be scrubbed. Every restaurant's given a deep clean, and every public space hoovered from top to bottom. On board, more than 100 staff work through the night. And one department in particular is a hive of activity: the ship's in-house bakery. Fresh bread has to be made from scratch all night, every night.
The bakery working 24 hours. The night people coming 8 o'clock, preparation all bread for the breakfast. Croissant, pan chocolato, all the breakfast is the night people. All the bread you eat on board is fresh.
In one night shift, this bakery will make 5,000 croissants and 3,000 pain au chocolat. And that's just for breakfast. Over the course of a week's cruise, the bakers will produce 7,000 donuts, 10,000 pizzas, and 70,000 bread rolls. To make life easier for the crew, the bakery is stocked with state-of-the-art equipment, like this, which cuts cakes using a high-pressure water jet. It can slice more than 1,000 cakes every hour.
Everybody, collaboration. For example, one people make the dough, one people working the table, one people put the proving, one put in the oven. When coming outside, I want to see the bread is perfect.
The final task of the night, to prepare the decks for another busy day. Then, as the passengers begin to get up, the night team heads to bed. Another shift finished on the ship that never sleeps. By 4 a.m., the ship is 1 mile outside the port of Miami. They might have all the latest technology on board, but to get into port safely, they need some expert local help. Captain John Nitkin is a Miami port pilot. It's his job to guide these massive cruise ships safely into dock. This morning, he's meeting up with the Seaside.
MSC Seaside, good morning. We are outbound to you now. What side is your pilot ladder? What side? Okay, we copy port side. Very good. We are headed to you now. We always ask the captain, have you been to Miami before? And if they say no, we tell them you're in for quite a ride. And after, they all agree that this is one very narrow, very fast, crazy place. There she is. She's a beauty. She's the biggest one in Miami right now.
First, the most dangerous part of the whole maneuver for John. He has to jump from his moving boat up onto the Seaside.
There have been a lot of accidents and pilots lost climbing that ladder.
Alongside midship.
The giant cruise ship has to make sure it holds its course precisely, so it doesn't smash into the smaller boat alongside.
Safety. Hold these. Okay, we hold these goods.
Once on board, John heads straight to the bridge.
Where's my captain?
How are you? Nice to
There
see you.
I hear you.
Happy to see you.
Good to see you.
Every port has its own pilots. They're the world experts in their own small piece of the ocean.
Hi everybody, Jackie Skelton here, JR World Travel, your travel consultant. Do you think using a travel consultant is expensive? It can be. But guess what? At JR World Travel, we do not have a service fee. That means we do not charge you any more to use JR World Travel. Please don't go shopping around. It can be expensive. Call me, Jackie, at JR World Travel, and the number is 844 249 0190.